Okay, guys, it's Brandon. We're going to have to go through and correct a lot of things that Justin says that don't quite make full sense. So let's do this. Ready? Here we go.
All the information that GM gave us about this car and showing all the looks of this car, but there is a good bit that was missed. So let's talk about all of the details that you missed on the Zr1-x reveal today. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the vlog. This is, in fact, the channel you're going to find all of the Corvette information you're going to need, whether it is maintenance items, ownership experiences, leaks, rumors, new items like this one. It doesn't matter. If you're looking for Corvette, this is the channel you'll find it on. Today, we're going to be talking all about the Zr1-x that was revealed earlier today. And of course, this is a 1250 horsepower monster that is going to be a hybrid version of the typical C8 Corvette ZR1, which was already a monster with 1064 horsepower. Now there's even more power, even more wheels turning, even more grip, and even faster times. But there's a lot of stuff that the reveal trailers didn't really talk too much about. Let's talk about it today. We're going to start off with the fact that the Zr1-x is not a check option for the ZR1. Yes, let me repeat that. It is not a checkbox item. The ZR1...
Okay. He's an idiot. So remember when Z51 and non-Z51 first started out at Bowling Green? It was a checkbox item. It was a checkbox item all through C6, C7, and it started out as a checkbox item on C8. But since they get two different gas mileages, because they get two different transmissions with two different rear differentials and two different aero packages, okay, on the non-Z51, GM realized that they needed to pre-bean count how many Z51s versus non-Z51s they were going to do so that they could keep their CAFE numbers right, but also maximize profit, because obviously Z51s generate General Motors more profit than a non-Z51 because it's like a $7,000 swing. So this is no different. So it is a quote-unquote checkbox, but will the dealer get an allocation for one? It's the same way that the Z51s and non-Z51s are. They're two separate cars. The dealers are going to find out that they've gotten X amount of Z51s, X amount of non-Z51s. But that doesn't mean that General Motors won't sometimes allow people to build whatever they want, especially when we get into later years of production, when there's not such a high demand. The dealers are going to be able to pick whatever they want. Okay, once we get up to like 2028 and 2029, when the real Zora shows up, which Justin's still in denial that it's coming, but it's coming. You can hear it in his video that he's in denial that there's a Zora coming. But okay, so glad that we got that clear. That's actually what he fails to say. He just keeps saying over and over, they're not the same car. They're not the same car. Okay, well, what's that mean in simple fucking English, dude? He can't figure it out. Listen to this bullshit.
X is a totally separate car. This has been confirmed by our friends over at the Mid-Engine Corvette Forum and the Corvette blogger, who were actually present at the reveal at the museum and talked to the people there who confirmed this is not going to be a checkbox item. So you're not going to order a ZR1 and then check the box that says X and have that add the all-wheel drive 1250 horsepower setup to your car. No, this is in fact an entirely separate car. So a lot of us speculated that this car was going to be called the Zora, of course. That's what this thing was kind of leaked and rumored to be for years at this point. And a lot of us speculated the Zora package was in fact going to be a checkbox item on the ZR1 build otherwise. We have confirmed today that is not the case. This is not going to be a checkbox item. Again, car of its own.
So it's also like when there's high wings on constraint for the Z07 packages on constraint, it's a checkbox item, but whether or not the dealership gets the ability. Now, granted, on that situation, you can build the car without it. Okay, you can elect to not put the wing. On the Z51 and the non-Z51, you've got to build a non-Z51 or you've got to build a Z51. So it's just like that. He fails to explain that. So who knows what the fuck he thinks is going on? Because that's how you would word it to people. Is it's just like the Z51 and the non-Z51, but he fails to explain that. So You're left with more questions than answers listening to this rubbish.
So the ZR1 and the ZR1X will exist together. They are not the same car with different options. Outside of that, of course, the hybrid motor up front, which is lending additional power over the E-Ray experience, is giving 186 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. That's where the 1250 number comes from. So the front motor is not identical to the one that we're getting on the E-Ray. It is a little bit overdriven or producing a little bit more horsepower. So the one on the E-Ray produces 160. This one is producing 186. So it is, in fact, slightly different. The car will hit 0 to 60 in under 2 seconds. Stay tuned for exactly how fast that will be because I'm sure GM's working on that currently. If I had to guess, we're looking at 1.8 to 60, which is going to be absolutely insane. GM also is estimating the quarter mile time to be under 9 seconds. Again, I'm sure we'll get an official time here soon, but I'm speculating between 8.7 to 8.9. And the trap speed is going to be over 150 miles an hour. Yeah, this thing's going to be a rocket. So it literally has a copy of the ZR1 engine in the rear. Nothing is different with the internal combustion engine that this car comes with. So the biggest difference, of course, is going to be the hybrid motor up front, but there's a lot of differences that are happening in between those two things. So when you buy the ZR1X, you are in fact getting a ZR1 engine, still twin turbocharged, still the same dual 76 millimeter turbochargers, still the same Manny turbo exhaust design that basically combines the manifold and turbocharger to produce as little lag as possible. All of that is the same. And just like with the E-Ray, there is no physical connection between the two power sources on the ZR1X. So the engine and the hybrid motor on the front operate completely independently. There's no requirement to plug in the hybrid part or anything like that. It is totally self-sufficient. Charging takes place just like it does on the E-Ray through brake regen and things like that. The compact electric motor on the front axle is capable of 186 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque, like we said, while retaining the exact same shape and size of the E-Ray front drive unit. The ZR1X unit pairs strengthened internal components and improvements in energy deployment to generate an additional 26 horsepower and 20 pound-feet of torque. The front axle is engaged and can apply power through 160 miles an hour before disconnecting, directly benefiting, of course, the ZR1X's quarter mile and acceleration times. Where things get kind of interesting is an option on the car called push to pass. It gives you the maximum available power on demand. What that means is you literally push a button on the steering wheel and it's going to engage that front motor and give you all of the power available regardless of the charge status. So even if there's barely any power left in that motor, it is going to give you
Barely any power left in the batteries.
186 horsepower to push you as fast as you possibly can go at the press of a button. Not that you would ever need an extra 186 horsepower for no reason, right? The Performance Traction Management Pro version is also on this car. So while this setting turns off traction and stability control, the following features do remain active. The regen brake torque vectoring, which of course is going to help recover energy in that battery without sacrificing agility. And the front axle pre-control, which actively manages inside front brake pressure to enable maximum corner exit traction. So that PTM Pro mode is going to basically turn off everything and allow you to completely drive the car. Now,
okay, once again, he completely fails to bring up anything about eDiff stuff because he doesn't want to be a negative Nelly. But it's a shame because therefore the cars never get fixed. So he doesn't point it out that the eDiff program is always on no matter what, because otherwise it'd have to go to 0%. So there always has to be an eDiff program present. He, John Elegant, and Keith Cornett failed to ever ask, is the eDiff program different in Pro mode? They don't ask. They don't care. These guys aren't drivers of cars. You can continue to drive the car and you have full control, blah, 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 blah. These guys have no clue. You know, I saw the video the other day with Rick Conti. Rick Conti did a follow-up on the video with the Austin Speed Phenom, and Rick Conti admits that he's never taken his car out of sport mode. Conti's never even been into race 1 before, let alone race 2. I drive mountain roads at race 2 ESC off. Not just race 2, but race 2 ESC off. I drive mountain roads. And I'm here to tell you, it's like sport mode was in the C7. It still nannies the fuck out of you. So these guys saying that this Pro mode allows you to drive the car, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. These guys don't drive their cars around in race 2 ESC off. They have no clue what they're talking about. All right, let's continue.
Oh, a lot of the information we've talked about in the past about the Zr1-x, or when we were still thinking it was going to be called the Zora, referenced bigger brake calipers, the 10 piston calipers in the front and the 6 piston calipers in the rear. It's not just the calipers though. The rotors themselves are bigger this time around. And when I say bigger, I'm not playing the Zr1.
They were bigger last time too. They were bigger volume. They weren't necessarily bigger radius by much, but they were bigger volume because they were thicker. So once again, Justin shows his math geometry incompetence here. Listen to this bullshit.
Game where they said bigger, but what they actually meant was thicker. These are physically bigger discs. The J59 brake.
The other ones were physically bigger too, you math dunce. You fucking retard. God damn.
Package, which is standard on the Zr1-x and of course an option on the regular Zr1, is a clean sheet design intended for superior heat resistance and ultra responsive braking. The brakes are now made by Alcon, not Brembo, and they're 10 piston in the front, 6 piston in the rear, and they're mated to 16.5 inch front rotors and rear rotors. So both the front and rear are 16.5 inches now, which is of course the largest diameter rotors ever offered on a Corvette, and honestly possibly the largest I've ever seen on a car, period. The rotors are carbon ceramic constructed with continuously
The reason why GM has to make them so big now is so they don't overheat, because it has so much electronic stability control bullshit with the quote-unquote torque vectoring and stability control and all this other shit going on all the time that's using the brakes. But look here, Zr1-x, an option on the Zr1. So we knew it was coming as an option on the 2026 Zr1, and he just said 2 sentences earlier, this is not the game that they were playing when they said that they had bigger brakes on the Zr1. They're the same fucking brakes as on the fucking Zr1. It's the same fucking brakes. It's an option on the Zr1. What do you mean it's not the same game? They're the same fucking brakes. God damn it.
Woven carbon fiber threads.
It's unbelievable.
They go on to say that this is the most resilient production car braking system they've tested within GM, and during testing they saw J59 equipped Corvettes achieve 1.9 G of deceleration from 180 to 120 miles an hour.
That has nothing to do with the brakes per se as much as it does the aero. Cars stop based on tires and aero and weight of vehicle, okay? But aero creating the downforce. Any brakes can create 1.9 lateral G with proper downforce. The question is, how long do they sustain it? So this is all marketing bullshit, which is fine. It's good that they realize the car can stop at 1.9 lateral G and that it can do it over and over because it's got these huge brakes. So that's good. And notice the continuous weave. That means the strands of carbon fiber are longer. Okay, so anyway, continue.
These brakes are going to absolutely crush the competition. The Zr1-x is offered in 2 chassis configurations that both feature magnetic rad.
No, Lamborghini and Ferrari already have better brakes, sir. Go look up what a Lamborghini STO has and a Ferrari 812 Superfast. They're already this good, if not better. Continue, dummy.
Control. The standard chassis, accompanied by the Michelin Sport 4S tires, makes for a comfortable touring car on road and highly capable Corvette on the track. The available ZTK performance package incorporates higher spring rates and firmer ride, which of course is going to give you even more of a track car, and also the Michelin Pilot Cup 2R tires. Just like the regular Zr1, you can equip it with the high downforce carbon aero package, but still keep the regular suspension without checking the ZTK option. Of course, the ZTK car or the high aero package is capable of 1,200 pounds of downforce at top speed. Another thing to note is a bunch of pictures that were taken inside of the museum where the car was actually revealed, showing the new Roswell green metallic color in person, and it looks fantastic. So right off the bat, this color has been up and down for me. I've seen it in different lighting and I didn't like it, but in this lighting, this color looks really good. With yellow calipers, and of course you can see these gigantic 10-piston calipers in the front and the 6-piston in the rear, and the rotors in general are just massive. It's going to be very hard to remove that wheel without touching that rotor, but either way, this braking setup is definitely more fitting for a car of 1,250 horsepower. Like I said earlier, they decided to go with the Alcon brake setup instead of Brembo because one simple reason. Brembo didn't have a setup like this already prepared, and there was a lot of money that would have gone into Brembo making a custom caliper for this car. Alcon already had a caliper that would work, so they went with Alcon instead. Now, a lot of you out there are going to be like, well, what's Alcon? I don't understand. Why didn't they go with Brembo? It was a cost-saving thing, and Alcon brakes are very, very, very established themselves. So this is not any kind of downgrade in the slightest, and in fact, it could potentially even be an upgrade, depending on how you look at it. Again, since we said the car is not a check option box for the ZR1, there's a lot of speculation out there right now saying that the C8 Corvette Zr1-x is going to start somewhere around $249,000. So it could potentially be significantly more expensive than the ZR1. We'll wait and see on that one. If you're looking to get one of these cars, price is probably going to be a decent amount higher, especially since it comes standard with those new larger rotors and everything. But again, Chevy has surprised us in the past.
I guess 210 to 215.
On the track, this C8 Corvette ZR1 is already starting to have some of the pros and cons from the hybrid setup come out. At the Milford Proving Ground track with its many curves, the Zr1-x was slightly faster per lap, but on other tracks, it has been a tick slower than the Zr1. There's been a couple people talking about the fact that
because in turns, the E-diff bullshit, it's just like the E-ray. This is what I was afraid of. So on windy tracks with long sweepers, it's inferior to the ZR1. Okay?
the ZR1 is likely to be a hair faster on the Nürburgring than the Zr1-x just because of the extra weight associated with that hybrid setup in the front. It's likely to be 200 to 250 pounds heavier in the front end because of the hybrid motor and the hybrid battery. And once that dies, you are literally just throwing around 250 pounds of dead weight. On a track the size of the Nürburgring, it's not likely to be dead for a long period of time, but at the same time, it is extra weight. And at some point, the extra horsepower is not going to make up the difference. There's been some talk about the C8 Zr1-x.
On the Nürburgring, they need to save the power for the push to pass for the last long straight and use it to get up to top speed faster on the last long straight.
Reaching a 41 to 4,200 pound curb weight, which is really pushing into possibly too heavy territory for a Corvette. In my opinion, the C8 Z06 was already a little bit overweight at about 3,500 pounds. Add to that another 200 pounds for the
It wasn't your car that was overweight. It's the driver.
The ZR1 and the turbos and the extra cooling. Now you're already a little bit heavier than it should be. Add to that another couple 100 pounds for the hybrid front
for Taco Bell and Mountain Dew and
motor and everything. Then all of a sudden we're looking at a car that could potentially be too heavy. Now, of course, 1,250 horsepower is going to help combat some of that, but when you're throwing that through really tight turns, the weight is going to end up catching up. So that's pretty much the deal here, guys. That's all of the information that I have found on this.
Okay, so hopefully you understand. It's just like the Z51 and non-Z51. They're two separate allocations, but it is still the same car, okay? They have two different gas mileages, but it's still the same model. And as far as Zora is concerned, that is yet another car coming down the road later. Okay, there's another whole entire vehicle coming later. All right? It's going to be a completely different engine technology, probably the dual direct injectors per cylinder is my best guess. And probably likely that will also be introduced on the Grand Sport, the two-wheel drive Grand Sport that comes out. It might have the LT2 first year, and then second year I won't be surprised if it also has the new advanced motor, and so does the Zora. And I bet you they leave the LT7 and the LT6 alone until next generation is my best guess, until the C9. All right, hopefully that made sense. See ya.